Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and back to another room session. Why not? So in today's video, we're going to be reacting to a Piers Morgan segment that I came across that I thought was very, very interesting regarding trans women, which are biological men in women's sports, biological females. And there was a liberal on that was talking about this issue in regards to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and the political, I guess, environment. And this person was so tone deaf, I was like, we gotta react to this. We gotta talk about it. We have to dissect what he's saying because his perspective is why liberals and the left are losing in this country, because they're so tone deaf and they're so dismissive to majority of Americans, including people on the left who do not like what's happening socially in our country right now, especially when it comes to female spaces and their protection, like sports. So sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, grab some Coca-Cola, and let's react to this crazy video.
David, let me ask you this.
Politics as a cudgel.
David, let me ask you this. One of the things she stands for, along with Joe Biden, is she has done nothing while they've been in office to stem this, in my view, horrendously unfair situation of trans athletes competing in women's sport. And an astonishing survey has just come out today by the United Nations that reveals that female athletes have lost 900 medals to transgender rivals competing against them in women's sporting categories. This is a UN report. That's 600 female athletes in more than 400 competitions have lost nearly 900 medals in 29 different sports.
900 medals. 900 medals. Just think about that for a second. 900 medals. Over 600 women lost around 900 medals in different sports due to men, biological men, coming into their spaces and saying, I'm a woman now, hear me roar. And something tells me this liberal, David, is gonna find a way to maneuver out of caring about this issue, as most liberals do. Let's keep watching.
When the average American sees that both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris now support this unfairness, and that's what it is, it's just unfair. It's nothing to do with being transphobic or anything else. It's just unfair. And when it's supported by a report like that from the UN, that's one of her problems too, is that people think they're supporting the indefensible. They lack basic common sense. What do you say to that?
I'm struggling to think that you're taking this any more seriously than as something that might generate clicks on YouTube, Piers.
Wow, you don't think that's serious?
Hold on, Piers, I can't even get a sentence out.
What, you don't think it's serious?
Hold on a second. The vast majority of those instances in the UN report are outside the United States and have nothing to do with the president or vice president of the United States at its face. And secondly, I would challenge you to tell me the quotes that Biden or Harris have put forward wherein they have weighed in on how sports leagues should be handling these decisions. But 92% of that study is not even in the US. So I don't even know why you're bringing this up other than
what's
to
that got to
generate
do with
clicks
the
on
principle
YouTube.
of the...
So now he's going to gaslight us into believing that because majority of these cases where these women lost over 900 medals wasn't in the United States, that somehow doesn't have anything to do with our policies here in the United States when it comes to trans issues and when it comes to women in sports having their spaces being invaded by men, as if that isn't happening in this country as we speak, as if liberals and Democrats like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and Biden haven't embraced this idea that Title IX should be eradicated and also biological men should be in these spaces. Not only in sports, but also in locker rooms and in bathrooms. I mean, didn't Joe Biden invite Dylan Mulvaney to the White House to have a conversation about their transness? Didn't Kamala Harris recently do an interview in which she was excited about the fact that when she was in charge of California, she was one of the first people to ensure that biological men had their sex change surgeries being tax funded in California while they were in prison?
I learned that the California Department of Corrections, which was a client of mine, that they were standing in the way of surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. And there was a specific case. And when I learned about the case, I worked behind the scenes to not only make sure that that transgender woman got the services she was deserving, So it wasn't only about that case. I made sure that they changed the policy in the state of California so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to the medical care.
I mean, are we gonna sit here and pretend as if the Democrats don't push this narrative all the damn time that it is okay for biological men to be in female spaces? Not just in sports, but in all spaces. Has the language not changed? Birthing person, chest feeders, people who menstruate. I mean, come on.
Of the principle.
I'm sorry?
What's that got to do with the principle?
Well, the principle is you're saying Kamala Harris and Biden have come out in support of this.
They do. They support policies which actively
protect.
They support policies that protect transgender athletes performing in women's sport. And I think that is madness. You're saying, well, because most of these things in this UN report were outside of America, it doesn't matter. It does matter.
What I'm saying, it's a completely contrived issue that almost no one cares about in every single opinion poll.
Wow. You see, I think that's incredibly deluded. People do care about it. They care about the integrity of women's sport.
It just doesn't show up in any opinion poll as a primary issue. Not top 10, not top 20.
Out of interest, do you
think... They care about it, but it doesn't show up in a single poll.
What's your...
He literally just said, nobody cares about it. Nobody cares about it. Who cares? Americans don't care about this. I know for a fact that's a lie because I've done many videos on this very topic and I cannot tell you how many people comment on my videos telling me I used to be on the left or I'm more left-leaning or I'm a liberal. And I agree with you. What's happening is absolutely insanity right now and I don't like it and it's pushing me away from the left. So the fact that he's so, I guess, pompous and so prideful that in his opinion it doesn't really matter because the polls that he's seen shows that it doesn't really matter. Well, who's being polled? Where are they being polled? And what political affiliation are they aligned to? Because sometimes people answer certain poll questions based on how they feel the poll should go if they are a left-wing person or a right-wing person. So polls aren't always the best measure to figure out what's happening. Sometimes just going out and speaking to people directly helps as well. And we know that the language being changed, that women's spaces being invaded by men in various ways, by the way, not just in sports. We know that it is having a negative effect when it comes to the momentum that liberals could be having right now, but they're losing because of this very issue. So for him to sit there on national television and say, it doesn't really matter, nobody really cares about this. Pierce is right. Completely tone deaf. And you know why? I say keep going. Keep saying that. Please keep saying that. Because God help us if liberals take over this country. God help us.
What's your view? Do you think it's fair?
I think that it depends on the sport, and I think we need to talk about this for probably 90 minutes to really have a productive conversation.
No, I actually enjoyed that narrative you two just had, and I have a solution that I think you'll both agree with, and I think we could settle this issue forever. Globally,
I know what it's going to be.
We know almost 40 years ago that we started testing for doping, for example, and we exclude cyclists in Olympics that are doping, and we found other drugs that we exclude, tested by Olympic testers. So why don't we just settle this and create the transgender Olympics? So if you started in one gender and you switch to another, you join this third category and you go at it. And I think everybody would agree with that. And I think it'd make it very easy, and it's tested by DNA. And that would be it, because I also agree it's kind of unfair if you take a man and change him into a woman using today's technology and he pounds the crap out of somebody in a boxing ring, or she does. That's not fair.
Sounds like common sense. And you know what? It's not going to happen. You know why? Because they tried it. They literally tried it. So when it comes to World Aquatics, which is swimming, they had created a trans event for biological men who identify as women or non-binary to swim in an actual event against each other to make it fair. Guess what happened? Nobody showed up, which is why they couldn't actually do the event, because they didn't have enough people to compete, because the competitors that were supposed to be there didn't show up. You know why? Because they wanted to be validated by swimming against biological females. That's why. It hurt their feelings to compete against other biological men like them, who had the same muscle mass, who had the same lung capacity, who had the same bone structure. Can't do that. Of course not. So that's why the trans Olympics will never be a thing, because trans people do not want to compete against each other. They want to compete against the opposite sex to somehow validate their womanhood.
You know, I don't know what David thinks he's saying when he says that no one cares about transgender athletes in sports. That could not be further from the truth. You know, I was just talking to a UFC fighter last night, Colby Covington, and he said it's awful. You know, it's brutal. We have men transitioning to women, and they're joining like UFC thing, not Dana White's UFC, but they're joining MMA in other leagues, and they're beating the crap out of biological women. And he's acting like it's had nothing to do with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, and like they don't support it. But I mean, it was Kamala Harris's VP pick, Tim Walz, who was putting tampons in men's bathrooms, you know, in boys' schools. So, you know, I think we know what they support and what side they're on.
Exactly. So how can David sit there and say with a straight face that liberals have nothing to do with what's happening as far as the culture shift when it comes to women in sports and their protection, when you have a VP nominee who literally was excited about stating that when he ran Minnesota, he was the first person to put tampons in boys' bathrooms. Not college, not high school. We're talking about junior high school. We're talking about children. Yeah. Oh, he also believes that children should be able to transition underage by being put on hormone therapy, also known as medical castration.
I agree with Kevin. What Kevin was talking about, a transgender, for instance, Olympics, I agree with that. And I've been saying that for a while. Donald Trump talks to people about the things that are going on. For David Pakman to say, oh, Americans aren't thinking about the trans issue. I'm sorry, David, they're definitely thinking about it. And she, regardless of her beliefs about things, go out there and talk about your beliefs about things. Don't just say, I come from the middle class and I care for an opportunity economy. Talk to people about what's going on in their lives.
You know what's bad when Marianne Williamson is schooling you as a liberal on how stupid you sound when you dismiss the trans issue in this country. Wow. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this video. Do you think that David is completely off of his rocker when it comes to trans issues and specifically women in sports and having their spaces invaded? What are your thoughts on this issue? I would love to know in the comments down below. If you enjoy my content, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you know when I post a brand new video. And let me know if you guys like this setting of me just chilling in my bedroom, talking to you guys about some serious issues. I kind of like it. And the natural light is just hitting my face in a way that I'm just like, I like it. Until next time, guys.